So thank you so much, Mark, for being our special guest today. Want to really tap into your mind about, about mindset and about the market and what you're doing to keep your mindset going, and how you came up with it. So I just want to talk real briefly about that. This is the beginning of the Special Shift Mastermind series, and we're talking about the 12 tactics. Yeah, we're right here at the beginning, and we're talking about the 12 strategic tactics to get through the shift, on what we could do to pivot. And the first one, foremost, is mindset. And it's important for us to remember that we have the ability to choose, right? That every person is born with the ability to choose, and that is what we can control. We can control our ability to choose. There are lots of other things that we cannot control, that are out of our control. So it's a matter of what it is that we choose in the moments of choice, right? When there's a decision to be made, what is it that we choose? So we'll start off with Jay Papasan has a quote: "Success is never about the chosen few, it's about the few who choose." So Mark, you have been, you're an agent, you're a rainmaker, you've been you're a trainer, you've been a team leader, you've been a coach. So what is it that you're doing to keep yourself, to keep your mindset healthy during this market?
Okay, I think it's just like real estate in general. It's simple, but it's difficult. Okay, conceptually, real estate and mindset are simple concepts, and yet once you get into the doing and the business of mindset and real estate, that's where you hit the challenges. So what I do really starts, I've got some notes here. Like anything we do in life, it starts with a commitment. You just mentioned it, in essence, Edith. You choose to do whatever it is. So in this particular case, and in past recessions and past challenges I've had through life, it really starts with one of two things. First, the commitment, then the plan. So I have a commitment to get through this with my health, to share information that appears to be accurate and beneficial to others, share it with others. And that's pretty much, where it starts. Okay.
Right. It sounds like when you are committing to your health, you're committing to the very bottom line of, taking care of who you are so that you can remain healthy and come from a stance of strength.
Exactly. And not only for the present, but for the future. And that's where the plan comes in. We plan for the short term to do what's most needed. And, in many planning cultures, many trainers, they always talk about a broad 4 or 5 step plan, or not step, rather category plan: life, your business, your financial strength, your personal and your spiritual sides. So we have to look at what's most important. Obviously, staying healthy is the most important thing right now. A lot of people will get confused and they're focused on their business, but without your health and the health of those around you, there's no point or need for business. Okay.
Right.
So you have to prioritize, and that's where the plan comes in.
Right. That sounds great. So now that you are, now that that you're focused on taking care of your health, and that you're doing what you need to do. So for example, you're definitely following the shelter in place order, and you're able to do business. So now, are you contacting your database? How is it that you're handling your business?
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm doing it. I'm going right by the book from my trainers, from Gary Keller, from Brian Buffini, Mark Von Canel, you name it. They're all kind of echoing the same sentiment. Reach out and be a resource. I think we get so busy in our business, we forget how well connected we are to outside resources, because when you're a good agent, that's really all we do, is we bring good information to one place. That's what an escrow is, right? It's bringing everything into one place so that we can move forward together.
Right. That's wonderful. Jim, do you want to like chime in at about like what you're doing? Are you taking care of your health? Is that like a focus of yours, or where are you at right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had a treadmill delivered. Denise and I were doing Orange Theory 2 to 3 days a week, and obviously that went down. And then, yeah, health, exercise is a big deal. You know, getting out of the house and just keeping yourself positive, right? And also being very realistic. You know, I was looking up. It's an interesting. It's called the Stockdale paradox. Have you ever heard of it?
No. What is it?
So Admiral Stockdale was more popular. Those of us remember Ross Perot. He was Ross Perot's running mate. He was a vice presidential candidate. But before that time, he was actually a Vietnam vet, and he was prisoner of war for at the Hanoi Hilton. Right.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if you ever heard of that, the Hanoi Hilton, which is just horrible. So what's interesting about the Stockdale paradox, it's a careful balance of realism and optimism. And he started talking about the people who survived getting out of the Hanoi Hilton and the people who didn't. And the people who didn't survive the Hanoi Hilton were constantly putting unrealistic goals that we're going to get out of here by Christmas. We're going to get out of here by Easter. We're going to get all those particular unrealistic, unverified goals that kept them going. But the problem is once they got to that point, you know, they lost all hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what happens is the balance of optimism and realism that, hey, we just keep on every day, we win the day, right? We win the week. We win the month, and we constantly do that. That continually keeps your mind in check, as opposed to, like, you know, April 3rd was supposed to be done with our lockdown. Well, that's not going to happen. Okay. But it's still okay. It's still okay. There's still things that you can do motivationally to keep yourself going, and just say, hey, listen, I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Right. It's like some people are too optimistic, and then they're going to get crushed because they're just thinking that everything's, you know, going to be okay. And it's just so high. And then there are others who are like, oh, this is doomsday. Right. And they're really based in fear about their health and fear about their business, their finances. So it's really important to get yourself right there in the middle. Right. And that's about where getting real really comes in. Mark?
Yeah, and Jim's example is really to the point. If you can survive a prison or a war camp, okay, you've probably got some skills that maybe you never even tapped into before. But yeah, just in case some of you youngsters don't remember, Hanoi Hilton was from the Vietnam War, and that was one of the most notorious prison camps ever. Okay, it was like the Holocaust for a lot of our soldiers. So we kind of have to put things in perspective. If people can survive things like that, we can certainly adapt to survive this. And that's really where you have to start from. And the next question is, okay, how do I do that? And that leads you into planning. And Jim touched on a great point. Don't set a specific date or anything that could be considered unrealistic. And unrealistic might be anything out of your control. For what we're involved in today, anything out of your control you'd have to pretty much throw into unrealistic category. Okay? So let's focus on what we can control. And Edith's made a great point here. Reach out to others. That's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing here on the call. We're connecting. And this is what people need in a time when we're forced to stay apart physically. We need to at least connect, you know, with technology, spiritually, mentally, all on the same page. Somehow we still need to connect. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Go ahead,
Susanna?
Hi. So Mark touched on something. Thank you, Mark. That was awesome. I actually came in when you were talking about being a resource to your clients. And you spoke about some information. You know, we're getting bombarded with information from all over Facebook messaging and everything. I mean, I really try not to look at everything. I try not to watch the news. It does give me anxiety and things like that. And so I really look at certain sources or resources that are super data driven, that are driven by doctors, scientific research, things like that. I had a lot of anxiety and fear built up because I am high risk asthma, as Edith knows. And I actually received a video from an IC doctor in New York that actually calmed my fear and anxiety a lot. My question is, are these the kinds of things, once you verify credibility and sources, are these the kind of things that you are sending to your clients? Would you send something like that to a client? Hey, I just heard this. I found it very credible. Just wanted to make sure that it was all about protection and prevention and how you take care of yourself and your family. Would that be something you would reach out to a client and send to them?
Well, it's on a case-by-case basis. Everybody's different, right? Okay. Starting with that premise, I have a client that it's a current listing. He's a dentist. He's very data-driven. His business, his career are based on science and facts. So when I speak to him, I share with him, just as you were a moment ago, stories of ICU doctors. When I go to MSNBC, I look for the same things, data-driven people, because that's how I'm wired, and I would share that with data-driven clients. Now, other clients are radically different. They're very emotionally grounded and wired. So I speak to their emotions. How are you feeling? What's this doing for you or to you? Have you discovered the silver lining? What's today's silver lining for you? Okay. And these are the kinds of conversations I have with emotionally oriented people. And again, listening to who they are from day one is going to bring you to understand what kind of information to share with them, is what my experience is.
Okay, that was awesome. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks, Susanna. So if what we're supposed to do to maintain, a positive mindset, part of that is getting in touch with the reality that surrounds us, right? So we look at things that we do know, and if we're fortunate enough to have a leadership that is providing on a daily basis the latest updates regarding the COVID-19 virus and the industry's response to it. I think that today's meeting was really good and that we got some help and information about what to do for our finances. So they're definitely touching on the biggest fears that our agents in our office are experiencing. So what we want to focus on now is to focus on the mindset, and that's to remember that you can handle this, right? If there are people who can handle the Hanoi Hilton, and there are people like Nelson Mandela who can handle being in prison for years, and people who go through, wars and all of that, right? This is just a period of time and it's temporary. And so what I think is really important is to focus on what is it that you want to be? How do you want to be in this moment during this time period? How do you want to remember yourself being? Look out at what it is, how you want to remember this time when we're on the other side of this tunnel. I think that that's really important because like Abraham Lincoln said, don't worry about the future, create the future, right? So if there are certain things that you want to be, like, for example, it's really obvious, the ownership, Jim included, the leadership, everyone, the staff, everyone is taking the stance of leadership and leading everybody through this process. So if you were to, look at yourself as if you were a leader, what questions do you have that would make you, want to tweak what your mindset is? Can we open that up a little bit?
Yeah, in the conversations that we have with friends, family, and clients, we always remember to start with, how are you doing? And is there anything we can do to help you?
And what's the reception you've been getting?
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, it started with, routine calls to database, but we've, as members of the ALC, we've been calling agents, and it's 100% positive.
Hmm.
Everybody is so glad to hear from us. And then we're getting people calling back in that missed our phone call or missed our text initially. Everybody wants to connect. A lot of people want to help, and some people want to be helped. So the ones that need help, we do what we can. We call their family members, younger people, just whatever resources, because we have a lot of resources.
Hmm. Hmm. That's great. Thank you, Jim.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have to tell you that one of the in my 35 years in the business, one of the best experiences that have molded my business currently was the 2007 to 2010 meltdown, right?
Hmm.
That I can't tell you. Of course, during the time frame, it was horrible, but that was such an amazing gift to my family, my attitude. I went from 7-digit net worth to below underwater, right?
Hmm.
To by the time it was all done. And what happens is that during these times, it's very interesting because it kind of heightens your sensitivity to everything around you. And what it does is that it allows you to, I think going into this particular issue, this problem that we're this challenge that we're working through right now, that 2007 to 10 timeframe actually has prepared me for this. We're not going down in flames, and I have to be honest with you. Back then, my business account always had 100 grand in it. My personal account always had 40 to 50 in it. I never balanced a checkbook. I never did a profit and loss. I only knew what happened at the end of it. I cut the check at the end of it for the taxes and wouldn't even care. And now it's like you're kind of paying attention. And even though the business is done well, I'm always paying attention to like the 2-week time frame. I do my P&Ls every 2 weeks, and that was a discipline that I learned from back then, right?
Hmm.
So this is truly a gift. I think it does spark up us paying attention to our business in a lot different manner. I think we should really embrace this and see, because I'm not buying it that everything, I hear the stats, and I know Mark is trying to be realistic, but these things going down 90% and all. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I don't. Just from a site, not from an unrealistic business or just trying to be too optimistic. But we had a horrible demand before. I mean, we couldn't even get houses before this whole thing kicked into gear. And then during the busiest time of our entire year, we get shut down. Okay, and then what happens is all that's built up, pent up demand, and I'm seeing that it's going to be a hell of a run right after this unleashes in May and June, and I think we have to be ready. We have to be ready because the way we did things before is not going to happen this way anymore, right? It's just like you're going to have to be able to do 10 to 15 deals in a 60-day time frame if you're going to embrace the opportunity of what's coming about us. But if you're doing it the same way as before, I think that's going to put you in a bad position. So I'm just looking to try to shorten the distance on my efforts and the amount of energy that I put into this. So because I'm looking to really clean up in May and June.
That's awesome, Jim. And I agree with you. And, as we go through this shift, it's important to remember that millionaires are created in times of crisis, right? Like this is an opportunity for you. And how Jim had talked about, it's like all of the things that affected him during the last shift, the market of 2007, 2008, you know, it's like lean into the pain, lean into what it is that's scaring you. Because the reason that it's scaring you is that you're not informed enough. You don't have enough of the information, enough of the facts to deal with what it is that you're, you know, you're afraid of. So for example, Jim was talking about his finances and how, you know, he didn't have to worry about it because he knew that he always had money in there. But when the shift hit for him, then it made him aware of, wait a minute, I need to understand what that is. So he leaned into it. And that's what I want to encourage everybody to do, is lean into what is the pain and look at that and think to yourself, why does this scare me? Or why am I worried? And look at what it is. You know, if you're like Jim, you start doing a P&L every 2 weeks. You know, you start really counting your numbers. And that actually is the topic of tomorrow's mindset, is expense management. That was great, Jim. Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. That was really great. And a couple of things you mentioned really, you know, resonate with me. Before our last downturn, nobody used to use, you know, DocuSign like they do now. So there are little technology tweaks that are going to come into play. Let's use this downtime as an opportunity to really master those things so that we can handle 2 or 3 or 4 times the business we're accustomed to. Because what's going to happen is, Jim's pointing out, when we do get through this, we have to hit the ground running, just like the healthcare providers are today. They're on the front line, they're meeting this thing head on. We're going to have a different crisis on our hands. Nobody's going to live or die based on what we do, but it's going to be the same kind of 12-hour shifts, 6-7 days a week for the short term to catch as much business as we can coming out of this. And we have to prepare for that. And that's where my mindset takes me into planning stage. So it begins with communication with all of our database, staying abreast of what they're thinking and knowing who's going to be doing what when we get through this.
That's awesome. I love that you have that mindset of, you know, when we come out of this, like the market is just going to be so amazing. And what a powerful and positive way to, you know, move through this time period.
Yeah, it's going to be our typical February, March on steroids, because this crisis, when we're sheltered in place, is just like winter months are typically.
Right, right. And then talking about, there's a normal cycle, right? There's a normal seasonal cycle.
And all these great economic signs and situations will still be in place. And people will go back to work. Now, we may lose, you know, in the tourism and the restaurant business, but overall, the biggest industries other than travel and hotel are going to be going full speed ahead when we get out of this. And the other thing I want to mention that Jim started to touch on was fear. And going back to our last recession, the statistics show that 52% of Americans that went into foreclosure during the last recession didn't call anybody. They were frozen with fear. They put their head in the sand and said, it'll all go away, or I don't need any help, or I'll just do nothing and everything will be fine. And they were wrong.
Right.
They didn't
And that's
call their real estate agents. They didn't call their bank. They didn't call anybody to say, I'm in trouble. They just let it go to foreclosure.
right. And that's why it's so important to call everybody in your database, right? Because as you're doing your care call, then, you know, you may find that they need some real estate or they're planning to do real estate, right?
Right. And here's an important fact that we have to be aware of. Don't use the last recession as a strict parallel, because the last recession, most of the people that went into foreclosure had zero equity, because we had spent 5 years doing 100% financing, 125% financing, and doing ridiculous straw buyer programs and so forth. So the homeowners, you know, a lot of them had no skin in the game. Things are completely different. We have to be there for our clients today because everybody has skin in the game now. Everybody has 10 or 20 or 30 or 40% equity. That's too big a risk to just let them stick their head in the sand. So talk to people and make sure that you are in tune with them and encouraging them to reach out whatever they need.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mark. Susanna, you had your hand up?
I have a quick question, but I do want to say that I have Mark and Jim's outlook. I'm going to clean up in May and June. That's how I'm looking at it right now. I'm excited about what the market is going to look like when this is, all not done, but when the SIP is lifted and we move forward. My question is moment to moment, obviously this time is teaching all of us how to live in the present moment, right? And enjoy every single minute, whether it's with our families or just making that loneliness time, rather than feeling alone and lonely, it is alone productive time, whatever you're doing, making your phone calls and things like that. So I've been reaching out to my clients and taking the lead and saying basically, what can I help you with? My question is, yesterday I got 3 texts, 2 were clients. Most of them just said, I'm so scared, Susanna, and I have so much anxiety. So I wanted to ask the agents that are on here, what are you communicating to your clients in terms of being a resource? Like, I am using the Calm app a lot. I love that app. It really it helps me with breathing. It helps me lessen my anxiety. It helps me sleep with the sleep stories. Like, I love that app. What are other tools and tips that agents are using to communicate to their clients or their family members that text them, that they're worried or scared? Where are you sending them and what are you saying?
Anybody want to?
The first thing that I like to do, and it's been very productive, is ask them, what are they afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever stop and think about that? What are they afraid of? Because sometimes it's real and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes they're wasting their time fearing something that's never going to happen, but it's in their imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you can help them process and get to a place that's much more balanced if you just ask them, so what's up with that? You said you're really fearful. What exactly are you afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
And let them self-direct and self-explore. Right, Edith?
Yes,
Is
absolutely.
one of the fundamental principles you've learned in coaching? You have to let people self-discover the difference between reality and just imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a huge help with some of the people I've been speaking with. Just
Mm-hmm.
getting it off their chest, even if it's real, it's totally real. Well, I've got these bills. And then I go, okay, so what can we do about that?
Mm-hmm.
And once
Yeah.
they get to the point where they either figure out what to do or realize there's nothing they can do but sit and wait, then they're in a much better place.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a lot of people, go ahead, Jim.
Well, Susanna, I had for a long time, I don't know what it was. I went through a period that I was not comfortable flying. I was not comfortable doing it, right? And I would get on there, and it was 2 cocktails later. I tried the calming app and all that stuff. But sometimes I think as I read through all the stuff on, and I'm the nephew of and lived with an airline captain, right? So I mean, for God's sake, if anyone should know, I should know that with just being with him, right? What's interesting is, even though there's a logical sense to it, right? They got to go over and say, in my opinion, what the stress is that you got to read, like, hey, you know what the chances are of a plane going down? Like, null. Like I've been on hundreds of flights, and I've had one time I had there was a little bit of excitement on it, but that was it, right? But out of all those flights, it's like your possibility. So logically, you think it through that way. But I think is interesting for stress levels. There's a couple things, is like, the calming app is one aspect, but you know what helped me get on planes? I used to get on the plane and get all calm and all that stuff. You know what? When I get on the plane, I got scorpions, like freaking full blast in my ear. I got rock and roll. It's an energy. It's a different type of energy. And sometimes stress is not something you just calm down. Sometimes stress is something you just grab it by the neck and choke the life out of it, right? I mean, it's like there's a different type of, it's a control energy, right? And sometimes people control it by being calm. And sometimes I go over just by beating the shit out of it, right? I mean, that's all there is to it. So, I think it's to respect what certain people, how they're going to deal with that. And, I like Mark's thing, being very logical about it, and you build on that foundation, and sometimes you build calm, and sometimes you get jacked up about it.
That's awesome, Jim.
Awesome.
Thank you. So Susanna, I like how you talk about bringing people to the moment, to the present moment of now, right? Because depression is trying to change what happened in the past, and anxiety is worrying about the future. So if you could just kind of bring them to the present moment, and like Mark was saying, ask them, what is it that they're really afraid of, or what is it that they're thinking about? Because sometimes when we say our fear out loud, then it's like, well, wait a minute, that really doesn't make sense that I would be afraid of it just from speaking it out loud. So if you can be that person that they can share that with, and just be in that moment with them, that helps them tremendously, just that action.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have anything to contribute about what they're doing to help their clients? Amal?
Yes. So I just wanted to bring 2 or 3 experiences that I have been trying. I've been making phone calls, and in fact, I'm getting more calls from people than I am calling out because they're just worried and they want some help. But I am trying to call people out too. And yesterday I called one of my clients out, and I keep bringing some advice to them at the time when I'm talking to them. And I said, hey, look at your interest rate, go jump, see what you can do with it. And he said, Amol, interest rate is the last worry. If you look at my stock market, balance of my portfolio, that itself is probably 30 or 40% down. I'm not looking at that. What am I going to look at $5,000 of this money? So that was one. But the other thing that I'm starting to do is just get on phone and start talking to people. The best thing is giving them as accurate of information as possible, because the more information we have and the more accurate that information is, it works very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go and look at this site called bing.com/COVID. It's an amazing resource on what the current COVID stats are. I have not seen anything better than that, and anything as current. It's a Microsoft powered thing. So bing.com/COVID shows all graphs, all trends. I have been telling for the last whole week that this is just now going straight up. So there is no letdown just yet, but the letdown will come much ahead.
So Amal, that's really good information to share. And, you might want to share that on our 9 a.m. meetings with Mark. So when you're addressing your client who's really fearful of what's going on with their, how they've lost so much money on the stock market, what you can do is just acknowledge that they have that concern and that they have that fear of what's going on.
I did that on my video. So I launched my video and I did that in my video.
Wonderful. That sounds
what I'm
good.
getting is the video. My VA edited the video in Philippines, and Facebook is not letting it get out. So I'm not seeing as many hits on my video yet.
Mm-hmm. So
if that starts getting circulated, then that will probably help, because I have a staple base of about 275 or so viewers on my Facebook business page, and Facebook is just blocking that video, probably because it's 5 minutes long and I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to use other avenues to get that out. So that's another
great.
That Facebook videos are not going through. So be cognizant of that and see what other ways that we can use to get out in the market.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Amal. Does anybody else have any comments or tips? Jay, I saw that you had posted something in the chat about meds daily. And I like that it was an acronym, because I thought, oh, I don't have drugs, so I could use them.
I mean, it's like, you're watching a horror channel and somebody's watching TV 24/7 and one shoe after other keeps dropping off. I mean, I just got off phone with one of the buyer and told them, don't watch the TV, just get out, just do your meditation, exercising, just take a walk with the family, not once to twice a day. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it won't help just watching 24/7 that if I'm watching more TV, the case is going to go up or down. Is what it is. I mean, we got, and on the same token, he shared a story with me. He said he had a friend and his wife delivered a baby girl about 3.5 months ago. She's an ENT specialist, and she went back to work, and she kept plans for quarantining herself and the baby and the dad. And she said, when it's kind of tough time like this, if I'm a firefighter, I'm running towards the fire, not away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after delivering a baby girl 3.5 months post delivery, she's back to work full-fledged 24/7 out there. So that's inspiring, because we are looking at all of negative things, and media is kind of making us watch more and more again, which is okay. But we need to take a break and do whatever makes us comfortable,
Right, right. And that's really good that you had brought up looking and focusing on the negative, because if we focus on our gratitude of what we have, then that helps us, right? Like for one, we have our real estate business. And because we have a real estate business, we have a database that all we have to do is just touch base and check in with people. That is something to be in gratitude for. We work with amazing associates, everybody that has been on the calls, that have been in the meetings, that are in the masterminds, everyone in our office has, has a wonderful business that they're communicating with their clients, and they're informing them, and they're keeping them up to date. And then we have, we're here at KW Bay Area Estates, right? What an amazing leadership that we have, and the staff, and, all like the ALC, the owners, everybody. It's such a professional group of people that's how you get to show up, because you are associated with this organization, and this organization is a leader, and we're making changes, and we're pivoting, and we're doing what we need to do to take care of our clients. And that is something to be grateful for, right? And so I love that you brought up being in gratitude, because when we are in gratitude and we're looking for what we're grateful for, then we start to count our blessings. And I know that you've all heard, what we focus on expands. So the more we look at what we're in gratitude for, the more we will find things to be in gratitude for. Anybody have any comments on that?
No, I just want to echo those sentiments. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's time to compartmentalize, if you will.
Yes.
You can spend some time in front of the TV getting up to speed on the facts and figures of the virus and its spread and its effect on our local and national community and worldwide community. But then you've got to spend time also doing the meds. You've got to have time to compartmentalize these different categories so that we address them all on a daily basis. One of the things I do for fun is, of course, I play drums for an hour. Now, I didn't have an hour to play every day before, so I'm thankful for that. And I'm getting 2 and 3 times the exercise I used to get, because Jackie and I are going for walks, and we're going to start riding bikes. We've got a home gym that got a little bit of use before on a regular basis, but now it's getting a whole bunch of use on a regular basis. So we have to,
Hey, Jackie.
we have to look at that as a silver lining. It's nice to have some time off, whether it's forced or not. So we have to appreciate that some of the time.
Sorry to jump in, Mark, but
That's awesome.
Walks are being considered wrong, because if the germ stays in the air for 2 hours. So say somebody went your path coughing 2 hours back and you followed the same path, they are saying that that's a high risk possibility. New York.
Thank you for saying that, Amal.
Subways.
Thank you, Amal. Thank you for letting us know that. So everybody, take heed on what he says about that. Thank you. Jelaine,
So I'm doing treadmill only, or I'm doing walk. If I want the sunlight really bad, I'm doing it in my backyard.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes. Jelaine, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about when we do talk to clients, and I know I tend to be very, we all having our own anxiety and talking to people and coming from a place of strength and knowledge. Remember that we can't, what I want to do is always fix things for people. And if I can't do that, be prepared to not be able to be that fixer for people, I guess is, that's what I'm mindful of, is that I can come with my heart and open and kindness and generosity and great gratitude, but not everybody's going to hear it. So I just wanted to put that out there, that just, if you do encounter those that are very negative, very scared, just bless them and let it go, but don't let that energy change your perspective.
So what is it that you say to them, Jelaine, when they get to that point where they're so negative? How do you gracefully end the conversation?
Well, I just remind them that I'm there. I just remind them that I'm there, and that that I care, and I just let people, I guess, just letting people voice their anxiety and concern, not trying to fix it, offering resources, and just reminding them that I'm there. That's all. And also, we've talked a lot about all these disruptions and these recessions like 2008 and all the ones prior to that, 9/11. I remind people that they're resilient. We're all resilient. And I love the idea that what Jim said about taking it by the balls. Taking action, is really important. So I have told people that maybe you do need to get up off the couch and, get outside, sit in the sun, have a cup of tea, go talk to your neighbor over the fence. We can't remain in isolation. So, all those, I just make suggestions, but I don't tie to the outcome.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jelaine. That's really
just
good.
For the record, I didn't say take it by the balls. Just the whole thing, okay? So
sorry, Jim. It just
it's something you'd normally say, but since we're
being recorded, I could see this coming back.
Oh,
Jim.
I said grab it by the neck.
My
and
interpretation. Totally my
Andy
interpretation.
saying Jim did say it. So, it's really good, Jelaine. I'm glad that you brought that up, right? So it's like, remember, we do want to look at the reality of the situation that we're in, right? We are on an SIP order, right? And we are trying to help our clients in the best way that we can. And so one of the things we want to make sure is that we remember we are in a business. We do own a business. And so make sure that you focus on what that is that you need to do, right? Like focus on, like right now during this time is a really good time to double down on your leads. We have two things that we're really, that are really within our control as a realtor. That's lead generation and then lead conversion, right? So obviously, because this is a different time in the world's history where we're dealing with an illness that's out there, it's different. So when I'm encouraging people to double down on lead generation, that's just the term and the calendar holder for making your care calls, right? Really reach out to your database, let them know that you care. Because I found that one of the reasons that people feel uncomfortable, agents feel uncomfortable with making their phone calls during a regular market, is they feel like it's been a long time since they spoke to that person before, right? Like, it's like, how do I call them? I haven't talked to them in months, or I haven't talked to them in years. So what is it that, how can we break through that fear? Well, this is your opportunity to really go and touch every single person in your database. Let them know that you're here. Let them know that you care. And when you call in your regular lead generating activities, it's a warmer connection. It's a warmer call because they've already spoken to you during this very different time in history. Does that make sense? So that's part of the getting into action, right? It's like, remember, yeah, you have your own fears. We all have our own fears, right? But what is the one thing that we can control? That's how we do our business. We can control that. And like Jim was talking about, and Mark, and, you know, like how I feel, and I know pretty much all of the agents who have been in business for a while know that the market's going to come back strong, and it's going to come back with a vengeance. So do what you can in preparation for that. Anybody else?
Can I jump in?
Yes, as
So,
long as it's about mindset.
yes. So to my mind, what is happening is people are going to change behaviors drastically after these incidents. And particularly with the portfolio going bad, with what their life's needs would be, there is going to be a whole change in perspective. And I believe that the next quarter or so, people are going to reevaluate all their options. And in that process, they're probably going to need much more help than we can imagine at this point.
Mo, if I may, I would disagree with you. Let me tell you why. Okay, I'll give you. This is there's a book called Change or Die. Have you ever heard of it? I mean, I remember I used to push that book real big, Edith.
I do. I remember.
When I used to be Edith's team leader. Okay, people go through like life or death situations. So let's go. This is the study, right? So if someone has a heart attack, right? All of a sudden they're a vegetarian, exercising, meditating maniac for about 30 days. Okay? And then after the 30 days, they drive by that drive-through over by McDonald's, and they're going to pound a burger there on the 31st day. Okay? People have a short memory for this whole change. They have a rhythm before this. This has interrupted that. And what's going to happen is that most people just start getting right back into the same routine later on. It's not going to redefine anything. It's going to interrupt the behavior that they had before. You guys remember, I've used this before on the 89 earthquake. When we had the 89 earthquake over here, no one waited for a light on top of a bridge or under a bridge. Do you remember that? It was wide open. It was like there was this huge gap. And you know what? You don't even see that as close. It took about a year for people to get over that. So I think the thing is that this has been an interesting interrupt, but people, the creatures of habit, they're going to go right back, and they're not going to worry about the death thing anymore. By May or June, people are going to start going over. They're going to still be a little bit apprehensive about it, and then they're going to go right back into where they were in the first place. So I'm sorry, Mal, I disagree. I've seen this.
Let's hope so. I mean, if that's the case, then things will be much easier.
It will be much easier, but you just got to give it mentally for people to heal, right? I mean, we've all of us, you know, we're adults. We've gone through dramatic things, right? There's dramatic things in our life. Remember the short period after that dramatic life, how you were sensitized. You know, let's say we lose somebody, someone's passed away in our family. Do you remember how you, like, for a month or two afterwards, you're kind of paying attention to everything a little bit more. Life was a little sweeter. You were slowing it down. And then, like, the 5th week, you didn't give a shit anymore. You walked by the guy asking for money at the store. Okay, you went right back to being a dirtbag all over again, right? But for that 4 or 5 weeks, man, you were kind of a redefined human being, right?
No, I agree. But you know what? After 9/11 or after the 2008 crisis, the way people did mortgage has completely changed permanently. There have been some changes that have come in with us to stay.
Therefore, like, let's say 9/11 is a great example. Like what? Tell me what defined completely that's currently right now going.
But I mean, lenders have changed their way of doing business.
9/11 did that?
More cautious. Owners are not borrowing crazy numbers.
Oh, well, back up, Bo.
That has nothing to do with 9/11.
No, not 9/11. I'm saying about 2008. After
9/11, let's go 2008, 2009. Okay, look at that. People were doing stupid loans. Did you hear Mike before this whole started? We forgot they're doing 100% financing again. Did they not live in that time frame? You know, it's
different 100% financing this time. It's not the same as that time.
I get it, but it's still stupid loans, right? Stupid loans are stupid loans, right? So what happens is they're doing these 3% downs or whatever. It's like they forget. They go right back into the same thing, and that's where it's at. And you know what? Just have patience. This has not redefined human nature at all. It's just interrupted it.
Well, I know that I do have a different take on that, but I won't really address that here. Well, I believe that people are going to think about what's really important to them, and that relationships are going to become deeper. I think it's a wonderful opportunity that families get to be together for this time, and that you know, what we're thinking, you know, it's a beautiful thing that people are really taking care of what they can by staying home. Like everybody can do that, right? Everybody can do that. And then we're also like trying to take care of the industries that are affected directly by it, whether it be the medical or the food service or the janitorial. Like there's a compassion and a sense of all of us being one that's come out there. And I think that, you know, as this continues to go on, that people are going to shift that more, so that they're remembering that, you know, we are all connected in some way. Now, you know, is it going to change how people do real estate? I don't know. It might not, but it might make people think like, oh, they want to move closer to their family or whatever. But I do feel that there is some powerful shift that's happening, regardless.
And you're right. I'm just going through that. The powerful shift of fear, powerful shift of positivity on what we're thinking right now. I hate to tell you, it's going to be temporary.
Yeah.
That's just going to be temporary. I mean, you know what? Again, think of your shifts, Edith, in your life on things that have happened. You know, there was in my own family, we had a shift where we lost that one generation. We lost a lot of them. And all of a sudden, my cousins and I, we all started getting tighter. We were talking to each other every other day. Then it went to every week. Then it went to every month. And then let me see if I can get a hold of them every 2 or 3 months, right? I mean, it just you kind of go back in that same routine. Now, with that being said, not to be a Debbie Downer on that, I mean, obviously you have to be intentional now about creating the positive effects of this to go forward.
Right.
But it definitely, you know, I hate to say is that human nature, there is no case that I've ever seen, unless you can tell me something different, that your behavior that is redone by these dramatic course of events are permanent. If you could show me one example of that it permanently went through everyone's life, I'd be up for being wrong on that.
Well, this kind of event has never happened before. So there is nothing that I could show you that does that. And I think that we could agree to disagree, Jim. Okay.
Well, we'll know in a year. We'll know in a year, right?
I'm sorry?
We'll still be friends. And
well, absolutely. We've been friends for a long time.
We'll know in a year, right?
Yeah. And you know, and yeah. So thank you. Thank you for that. Susanna.
Can I say?
The reason
Susanna's got, she's got it right
now. So I just want to make a couple comments. I agree with both Jim and with Edith. I think we're going to see more compassion out there, but I have had experiences even with my own challenges in life, but I've seen in my family, I have a huge family. Some of my family members have actually passed away. So they actually died and they were brought back to life. And I remember thinking, maybe they will change the way they are or the way they were, because they were either always stressed out, always worried, always causing some kind of drama in the family. And some of them didn't die, but they also went through very, very difficult times. And I honestly always thought they were going to come out of this and be a totally different person and just be a better human being. They probably did that for 30, maybe 60 days. After that, same exact person. I'm dealing with one right now. She actually passed away. And I thought, God, she's just going to be so different. We're going to get along better. And I just have to toot my horn. Like, I'm a good human being. Okay. I believe that I get along with a lot of people. And for some reason, I just was yearning after she died in the ambulance. They brought her back. I was yearning for this relationship with her that I have created in my own head and have always imagined. And honestly, we had that for about 60 days. And now she's the same person she was before she died. So, but I also believe that there are going to be a lot of people that are really going to reflect on this present moment and have more compassion and be better human beings overall. Now, will they change all of their behaviors? Probably not. But I think they may have more compassion for people and also be better humans to the people and show up a better version of themselves every day because of this. At least I know I am.
Right. Right. And, and thank you for sharing that, Susanna, because, I mean, we are all individuals. We are all unique, and we all get to choose how we want to live, right? We all get to choose that. Some people will be affected for a short time period and then go back to their habits, right? And that has happened, and we know that that's happened. We've experienced all of that, right? Then there are some people who, they may last a little bit longer and go back to their habits. So what I want to focus on is what I could do. What I want to focus on is what my mindset is, right? And that's what I wanted to share with you. That's why I wanted Mark and Jim to be here, so that we could share with you the importance of mindset and how to handle this time period, right? So it's not about what other people are doing. It's about you. And that's what's really important. And I want to make sure that, that you guys all remember that.
Can I just say one more thing really quick? Instagram Live for music. Like, music feeds people's soul. If you're not on Instagram Live, every single musician on the planet is like coming on live. And we're doing a lot of music here. We're going out for walks and connecting with nature where it's very secluded. Wear a mask if you have to, but get out. All of that is good for the soul and for the mind.
Awesome. Awesome. And Anna Maria had posted something in the chat. There's been lots of great comments, lots of links in the chat. Jim, want to wrap up something? Want to say something to wrap up?
Yeah, I don't mean, I didn't put that as a downer thing. I just put it as because, we're having such a great, this is a really neat moment, right? I mean, this is a very high awareness moment, right? But I think that what's created this high awareness moment is we have to be intentional about everything we do, right?
Absolutely.
Our interactions are like this, right? We have to be intentional with each other that we're going to come together. It isn't like we're just going to bump into each other in the hallway, because that's an unintentional thing. So what's going to happen, I think, later on is that if you want to carry on, if you appreciate this feeling, just like exercise and just like a good relationship with anybody, it's about being intentional about everything you do, and that's going to carry forth that. Without intention, it's going to go back to the same shit. It just is.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's okay too, right? That's okay too, because before, the same shit was lack of fear, right?
Yeah, and that's not good either.
Right now, the fear, that's going to go eventually.
Right. Right. And having a lack of fear is not necessarily a good thing, right? Because fear, it helps us to see what we need to do, like what's important. For example, there's there's like the stove, it's red hot. Are you going to touch it? No, right? Fear has a good thing. Mark, you want to wrap up? Thank you, Jim.
No, I'd just like to thank everybody for doing the best you can under the circumstances. I think Jay touched on it early, and it's been Brian Buffini's theme, and economist, our chief economist at NAR, Dr. Yoon. This too shall pass. So just, it's not a permanent situation. Make the most of it, plan for what we're going to do after it, and serve people during it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark. Everybody, thank you so much. Hi, Jackie. Everybody, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
You want
everybody.
to know what you're making for lunch?
Yes.
Probably take out the wine first to make room for food.
I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It was really wonderful to have you, Mark, and to have you, Jim, specifically to speak about about Mastermind and how to move on from here. Tomorrow is about expense management with Ian, and he's going to have Matt Kossel, Cindy Salhaney, and Gary Shapiro. And then Thursday is going to be about tough people during tough times, and that's with Jim. And Jim, do you know yet who your panelists are?
That's not really. I looked at your. It's not. That's. I think we did something different on that. We're going along with the shift.
Right.
And the shift
Yeah, we
more
updated
with
it.
less.
Yeah.
Do more with less. That was what we decided on.
Oh, okay.
So
all right. So do more with less.
On how to let's shorten. Someone is asking about shortening the cycle, and that's what we're going to talk about on that day.
That sounds great. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Go out there, make your phone calls, and be blessed.
Thank you. Love you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Love you.